In the annals of American history, few figures loom larger than Teddy Roosevelt, born into privilege yet shaped by adversity. Roosevelt's life was a testament to resilience, unwavering determination, and curiosity. But amidst the towering legacy of this larger-than-life statesman lies a lesser-known tale, a story of passion, perseverance, and an unexpected love affair with the ancient art of Jiu-Jitsu. I am your host, Patrick Ortega Fowler. Join us today on Feast of Fighters as we go through the remarkable life of Teddy Roosevelt and as we uncover the untold story from going from sickly youth to a powerhouse of physicality and the food that got him here, one of his favorites, chicken smothered in gravy. Before we get started with the history and recipe, I wanted to thank all the authors, including the author of Theodore Rex, Teddy Roosevelt's autobiography, and Joseph Sphinx, amongst others. Fried chicken has a rich history in the United States, tracing back to culinary traditions of African slaves and Scottish immigrants. Slaves brought their cooking methods and spices, such as West African seasoning blends, which influenced the development of Southern cuisine. They often prepared chicken by frying it in fat, a method they learned from Scottish immigrants. This combination of African and Scottish culinary influences laid the foundation for what would become known as Southern fried chicken. The president loved the dish. According to a diner at the White House, the fried chicken was covered with white gravy and oh so good. The president said his mother had always said it was the only way to serve fried chicken, that it gave the gravy time to soak into the meat, and that if the gravy was served separately, he never took it. It paired well with other things, a dinner of 2 fried chickens with biscuits and cornbread. Roosevelt said he worked off some of the effects by cutting down trees. Today's recipe comes from the 1887 White House Cookbook. For the recipe, you will need 1 young chicken washed and cut up, salt and pepper to taste, flour for dredging, eggs beaten, cracker crumbs, butter, sweet lard, and for the gravy, you will need 1 tablespoon of flour, 1 cup of cream or milk, salt and pepper, and chopped parsley. Roosevelt was born in 1858 in New York to wealthy parents. He lived a life of luxury on Manhattan Island. However, he was not so lucky. He suffered from asthma, which left him bedridden and sickly, learning from home from tutors. He loved reading adventure tales, especially historical tales of explorers. He found a love for the natural world. He loved to explore outdoors. He hated the pretenses and stuffy eccentricities of living in the social elite. Instead, going outdoors and collecting animals and other things for his natural history collection. His life suddenly changed on a train as a young teenager. He was beaten up by a group of teenagers. When he went home, his father said that he had to become strong. The family hired prizefighter John Glenn as a boxing coach to teach young Roosevelt. Most people might see this beating as a setback, but Roosevelt saw this experience as transformative. The experience taught me what probably no amount of good advice could have taught me. I made up my mind that I was going to learn so that I would never be put in such a helpless position again. Roosevelt flourished at Harvard. He got caught up in debate, joined prestigious social clubs, and he boxed and wrestled. He was never champion, but he always challenged himself. According to Roosevelt, I did a good deal of boxing at Harvard, but never attained the first rank. I got to either the semifinals or the finals. I forgot which, but aside from that, this chief part I played was to act as a trial horse. Roosevelt seems to think that he had slow progress in a lot of endeavors. Quote, I was fond of horseback riding, but took to it with some difficulty, exactly as with boxing. Despite this, he even got into a few scuffles defending himself on the streets, one in which he reached out and laid the mucker flat. But his sportsmanship was second to none. In 1879, a match at Harvard Gym, his opponent threw an inadvertent legal blow after time had been called, which drew the jeers of the angry crowd. Roosevelt, who was unfazed and principled, said, "Hush!" He didn't hear it. As governor, Roosevelt preferred grappling, hiring the American middleweight champion to teach him, and they trained 3 to 4 days a week. He loved wrestling and bought a wrestling mat for the workout room. Some of his contemporaries didn't see this as proper behavior for his title. The middleweight champion taught Roosevelt adeptly and safely. For Roosevelt, quote, "For wrestling is a much more violent amusement than boxing." Later, James O'Brien, who was then Roosevelt's wrestling coach, taught Roosevelt some Jiu-Jitsu moves. O'Brien was a Philadelphia policeman who worked in a Nagasaki station for 4 years and learned some Jiu-Jitsu, but these were just a few moves. A wealthy businessman named Sam Hill came into the fray. Sam was an avid traveler who had many connections in high society, including the Queen of Romania and the King of Belgium. Now in Seattle, Sam had a frail and spoiled son. After seeing a judo demonstration on a trip to Japan, he asked a friend named Shibata in New Haven to find him a good judo instructor to get his son involved in physical activities. He proposed a son of a minor samurai and an original guardian of the Kodokan, Yoshiaki Yamashita. Yamashita had taken part in the 1883 Judo vs. Tokyo Jiu-Jitsu Police Club Challenge. According to E.J. Harrison, who studied judo in Japan in 1905, Yamashita defeated 17 people in a restaurant in self-defense, all by himself. Hill didn't know anything about this, and just wanted to help his son build character. Yamashita gladly accepted Hill's request and traveled with his wife and assistant by steamship. He and Seattle did a demo in front of high society and sports writers like Senator Russell Alger and the wife of railroader J.J. Hill, as well as many sports writers. Yamashita had to prove himself in a match, and did. Hill brought him to the District of Columbia to meet his son. However, it didn't work out. Yamashita might have not have found a job teaching Hill's lazy son, but he found work teaching Washington socialites. His wife also taught the daughters of powerful politicians. The Japanese naval attaché introduced Roosevelt with Yamashita in the White House. Yamashita did a demo of judo for the president, but much like Seattle, the audience thought it was prearranged. However, he wanted to lose 20 pounds before the next election, so he decided to start training in 1904. He initially practiced for 3 days a week during the spring and occasionally during the summer. He practiced in the White House. He had many sparring partners, including his sons, his secretary, the Japanese naval attaché, William Howard Taft, and Gilbert Pinchot. He spoke highly of quote-unquote jiu-jitsu, speaking to a boxing partner, "You must promise me to learn without delay. You are good in other athletics, that you must add jiu-jitsu to your accomplishments. Every American ought to understand the Japanese system thoroughly." In 1905, he also said, "The art of jiu-jitsu is worth more in every way than all of our athletics combined." Roosevelt, much like boxing and wrestling, viewed his progress as very slow. However, he progressed and started to do well. Quote, "I had a young Japanese now at Harvard here for 6 months, and I tried jiu-jitsu with him every day, but he defeated me. It was not easy to learn. However, one day I got him, good and plenty." Yamashita saw him as a great student, but Roosevelt was very, very impetuous, according to Yamashita. Sometimes the sessions were rough. Sometimes Yamashita came back with some bruises. Roosevelt was always enthusiastic about judo, but his son was not so enthusiastic. His son Kermit saw the technique as a little bit rough. Quote, "My throat is sore because once when one of them had a stranglehold, I also got a hold of his windpipe and I thought I could perhaps choke him off before he could choke me." There was a big question about judo. Yamashita had a bout with a catch wrestler. Formerly a Jiu-Jitsu fighter by the name of Higashi was overhyped by journalists. He faced two opponents, losing to both of them, including Yuki Otani. This brought doubts to people's minds as to the effectiveness of jiu-jitsu, so Roosevelt set up a match between Yamashita and a catch wrestler named Joseph Grant. The bout was set to take place. Here's the bout according to Kermit Roosevelt. Grant did not know what to do except to put Yamashita on his back, and Yamashita was perfectly content to be on his back. Inside a minute, Yamashita had choked Grant, and inside of 2 minutes more, he had got an elbow hold on him. Grant, in the actual wrestling and throwing, was about as good as the Japanese, and he was so much stronger that he evidently hurt and wore out the little Japanese. This win by Yamashita brought honor back to judo. Theodore Roosevelt's life was a great example of perseverance and determination. From battling asthma to facing bullies, he never shied away from adversity. His passion helped popularize wrestling. Embracing self-determination, he delved into boxing, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu despite initial struggles. Roosevelt's unwavering commitment to overcome obstacles and promoting physical fitness serves as an enduring inspiration, reminding us of the power of perseverance and courage in pursuing dreams. Wow, you've made it this far. Now let's try a fried chicken with white gravy recipe from the White House Cookbook of 1887 that Roosevelt might have eaten. One thing that struck me as odd about this recipe is that it had lard and butter instead of oil, which means you had to cook it at a lower temperature. Secondly, the gravy had such few ingredients, which seems a little bit odd for a gravy for chicken. First of all, you need to gather your ingredients, like young chicken, crushed crackers, flour, pepper, butter, and lard. Generously salt and pepper your chicken. Dredge it in flour. Now dip it into the beaten egg mixture. Roll the chicken and crushed crackers. Heat the butter and lard and wait until it becomes hot. Shallow fry the chicken on both sides until it becomes golden brown. After it has reached a safe internal temperature, let the chicken rest. Empty out the grease and brown the flour until it's not raw. Then stir in the cream, stirring rapidly until it has become thick. I took the chicken up to the rooftop of my apartment building. Now let's give the chicken a try. I accompanied the chicken with a salad, and I chopped parsley for the gravy. The first chicken I dipped into the gravy completely, like Teddy Roosevelt liked. However, I don't think the gravy dipped added a lot. The butter and lard frying mixture added a little bit of extra flavor. The chicken on its own without the gravy was also juicy too. I recommend this old method of frying chicken at least one time. And don't forget your cola with fried chicken. Thank you for joining us on Feast of Fighters. Until next time, goodbye for now.